up, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So a lot has happened since the last time I was on here, and yeah, I had a baby. So she came 2 days early from her due date, and yeah, it was actually a very grueling and kind of crazy process. So I thought that I would share with you guys my birth story, talk about kind of like what happened for me, because obviously everybody's birth is different. Baby's currently sleeping. She's actually been really good, and our time back home has actually been pretty chill. Like, she's actually a really chill baby. So but anyways, so let's start from the beginning. So it all started on Thursday at 2:35 p.m. So Thursday, March 5th at 2:35 p.m. Basically on Thursday, it was really funny because I had just met with our birth photographer, literally like got home from meeting with our birth photographer, and I was out on our balcony and Tyler was stretching, my husband was stretching, and I was sitting on our chair outside on the balcony and I was drinking some water, and I was telling him what the birth photographer was saying and like kind of like how things are gonna work and all of that. And I was sitting there and I stopped mid-sentence because it literally felt like I had peed myself, but I know that I didn't pee myself. And I was like, I think that my water just broke. And he was like, no way, like there's no way that just happened. And I was like, I'm pretty sure my water just broke, because it was like a gush of like fluid. It was really weird feeling. So then I went to go check and I was like, yeah, something is definitely not right. It kept coming out like in like leaks and like gushes and stuff. So I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm like leaking like amniotic fluid. So then I called because I was like, do I labor at home? Like, I'm not having any contractions. I'm not having like any signs of contractions or labor or whatever. So I was like, I really, really wanted to like start having contractions and like be laboring at home for a while. I didn't want to have to go to the hospital like right off the bat. So thankfully, I already had my bag packed. Tyler was like, I probably need to get mine packed, but I told him to wait because I wanted to call my doctor and just make sure that we were gonna need to go to the hospital. So I called my doctor and I was like, hey, I'm pretty sure my water just broke. And she was like, you probably need to go to the hospital. And I was like, God damn it. Cause I was like, I'm not having contractions, I'm not in labor, like, but I'm definitely leaking some fluids and I don't know what to do. She told me, you need to go to the hospital that you're giving birth at. So we're both just like, oh my God, like what if we go to the hospital and they send us back home? And I didn't realize that it was like such a big deal to have your water break and like not have contractions. So I didn't know that they were going to admit us no matter what. But I was really upset because I really, really wanted to be able to like spend that time at home and be able to labor and like be in the bathtub and be in the comfort of my own home basically while I'm like having contractions. We go to the hospital. On the way there, I mean, we're not like trying to go fast or anything like that because I'm not having contractions, so obviously baby's not coming yet. So we went to Chick-fil-A and I got something to eat because I was like, I'm definitely gonna need something to eat because she's making some noises. Definitely gonna need something to eat because if I do go into labor and start having contractions, I know that they're not gonna let me eat or whatever, and I want to have enough energy in order to be able to like get through birth. Got Chick-fil-A, started to have like mild contractions, but nothing crazy, only whenever I was like standing up or like moving around. So we got to the hospital, told her, you know, I think my water broke, whatever. Took me into triage and she checked me for like dilation and all of that, and I was only 2 centimeters dilated, and the last time I had gone to the doctor I was 1 centimeter dilated and 20% effaced, and this time I was 2 centimeters dilated and 60% effaced or something like that. Still not having contractions. That those little contractions that I was having like at Chick-fil-A like had gone away. This sucks. And then she did like this test for amniotic fluid to like see if my water had actually broke, and it came out positive, and they're just like, okay, well, you're staying at the hospital until you have this baby. Like, the baby is coming, you can't leave now because your water is broken, so now you're at risk of infection. Like, I want to have this baby as natural as possible. Like, what are we gonna do? She's like, if you don't start having contractions within the next hour, then we have to put you on Pitocin and have to try to get you to have contractions because we don't want to have to do a C-section. And within my birth plan, I do not want a C-section. I was really hoping to be able to have a natural birth where I didn't even get pain medicine or like epidural or anything like that, because I was hoping I have a quick labor, I hope my body knows what to do, and if I'm having like a 10-hour labor, then I can easily push through that, you know. So get into a room. It's like 5 o'clock right now because it took us some time to get to the hospital, and then we ate Chick-fil-A. So, and then they checked me, and it took them like kind of a long time to check me. So it's about like 5 o'clock now, and they're telling me, okay, you can't eat anymore. So can't eat anything, can't drink anything, can only have ice chips. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? They start getting me hooked up to an IV. And I was kind of not happy about that because I really wanted to like move around the room and be able to walk and stuff. If I am having contractions, put me on an IV, put me on like a fetal monitor and stuff like that, because they want to make sure they're monitoring me, because I'm still not having any contractions. I'm not in labor yet. It's already been like 2.5 hours since my water had broken, and I'm still not having any signs of like labor. I'm still only a 2 centimeter dilated. So they tell me that they're gonna have to hook me up to Pitocin, which sucks because I really wanted to be able to go into labor naturally and have like natural contractions, not Pitocin induced contractions, because Pitocin induced contractions are much more intense and much more heavy, and you don't get to like ease into labor. You just like are there like in labor, like having contractions. So I was really upset, and I was like, okay, but you know, I would rather be induced than have to have a C-section, because now I'm at like high risk because I haven't had any signs of labor. I'm not dilating any further. My cervix isn't effacing any further, and it's been some time since my water broke. So we started Pitocin. It took us some time for me to start feeling real contractions. My body really was not prepared or like not ready to go into labor, so it was being forced into labor. Once I did start to feel contractions, they came on fast. All of a sudden, I'm not having any contractions, and then it's like, oh, now you have contractions. What you might not know about Pitocin is that whenever you have contractions that are like induced, or at least for me it was, there's like no break in between. I wasn't having, like I think actually they began and I was having 2 minutes apart. It wasn't terrible. Like I could like breathe through it and like be calm and like move and all that and get up on all fours, and I stood up for a while, you know, and I was able to breathe and relax for a little bit, like throughout the daytime. Once it got to nighttime, they upped my Pitocin like every hour on the hour up to like 28. They started at like a 4 or 6 or something, and they upped it all the way up to 28. So I did not sleep. Like I didn't sleep until I think 4 a.m. because my contractions started to get really intense. I was having only like 30 seconds to 45 seconds in between contractions, and they were very, very intense. I squeezing Tyler's hand, breathing, listening to music. I had Tyler's mom pushing up on my lower back to like take away from that pain. They gave me oxygen, whatever they could possibly do. Like I was trying to do as much natural pain management as I possibly can. So about 6 hours go by of like this type of contractions. Everything is really close together. Everything is like really intense, and I can't take it. Like, why is my body not doing this naturally? And so I asked them to check me, and they checked me, and she told me that I was still only 2 centimeters dilated. And it was really, really disheartening. And I like went hysterical. Like I was like crying, and I like need some sort of break. Like I don't have any break. Like I'm literally having 20 seconds to 45 seconds of a break in between every single contraction, and nothing is happening. So they were like, okay, well, we're gonna stop your Pitocin, and we're gonna try something different to get your cervix dilated. We're gonna give you like this pill or whatever. We're gonna put you on some pain medication that's gonna make you really dizzy and loopy and make you fall asleep. So I said, okay, like let's do it, like whatever I need to do to get everything going. Because then they were like, okay, well, if you go past a certain amount of time, you're gonna have a C-section if you go past a certain amount of time with your water broken and you're not like having the baby. The contractions start to, you know, die off. I sleep for about like 3 or 4 hours, and I wake up so that they can check me again. And so finally they're checking me again, and they're like, okay, you are 5 centimeters dilated. You're 80% or 70% effaced still, but you're 5 centimeters dilated, so that's awesome. We're gonna start Pitocin again. My body was not going into labor by itself. Like I wasn't having contractions without Pitocin. So if they had me hook up to Pitocin, then I was having contractions. But if they took me off of Pitocin, my contractions would just like die down and like go away. This time it was in intense. It was almost as soon as they hooked me up to Pitocin, I started to have the most intense contractions and pain of my entire life. And these also were not only super intense, like no break, like it just went from 0 to 100 real quick, and it was really, really tough. I was only having like 30 seconds in between every single contraction since the time they put me on Pitocin, saying no, 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 like I can't do this. And I dealt with the contractions for like a good 5 to 6 hours. I know that you're supposed to relax, but I had no time to relax in between contractions, so I couldn't like relax during my contractions. I just can't do this anymore. I was like crying, and I was like, I can't, like I have no break. I'm still not dilating as far as they would like me to. Like I'm still only 5 centimeters dilated. It's been 5 hours. I need an epidural. My body's just not relaxed. So it took them about like 30 minutes to get me the epidural, which was like the longest 30 minutes of my entire life. And I wanted to relax. And think about this too. This is basically like 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock the next day, maybe even later than that. Maybe even like 5 o'clock. I think it was like even later. I think it was like 5 o'clock the next day. I had been without food for over 24 hours. So if I had been able to like eat and have food and water and all of that, I probably wouldn't have been able to go a little bit further, but I was exhausted. So after the epidural, I was able to relax and I was able to kind of lay there. Having an epidural is like the weirdest thing ever. I've never had that much numbness like in my legs and in my feet, but they like drugged me up. Like I couldn't feel anything. So then I was able to kind of fall asleep, and I fell asleep for I think about an hour, and the nurse came in. My family had all left, everybody had left because they were like, okay, well, this baby's obviously taking its time and we're gonna go home. So as soon as they got home, the nurse comes in and checks me and says, oh, you're 9 centimeters dilated and 90% effaced. How did that happen? You are ready to have the baby. So other nurse comes in, checks me, says about the same thing, says we're gonna wait probably about 30 minutes to an hour to have you fully efface and be ready to have this baby. So called the photographer, told her to come, told my parents, hey, like I'm going to be having the baby like probably in the next like hour or so. So yeah, it was crazy. So the cool thing is like they don't move you from your room. So I stayed in my room. I had all the doctors come in. I obviously can't fucking move because I had an epidural. I can literally not feel anything at all. All the doctors come in, everybody starts prepping, and they do a couple of like test pushes, and Tyler got to see her hair start doing real pushes. And literally I think I pushed for about 15 minutes, maybe max. I only had to push through 5 contractions and then she was out. So, and that was kind of like the coolest experience of my life. The pushing part I think was actually my favorite part because one, I couldn't feel anything at all, and I know I'm strong, so I know I was able to push the baby out. Within 5 contractions, I literally pushed that baby out. She came out and she didn't even cry. They put her on my chest and they were like, why isn't she crying? Is she okay? They start patting her, starts to cry a little bit, and then we were like, okay, she's all right. And she just kind of like laid there and stared at me. I only had like 3 spots that they needed to stitch up, which wasn't even that bad. They said that I barely teared at all and that I should have a really good recovery. So everything that happened, they just did it in the same room. I didn't feel the placenta passing. I didn't feel them stitching me. I didn't feel any of that. I didn't even get to see any of it because I was just in awe that I had a baby. Like, it's so crazy actually being pregnant and not seeing the baby for so long, but knowing she's in there and then actually having the baby is crazy to me. So after they stitched me up and like cleaned me up and stuff, took the baby, they did some testing, some shots, and she's Coombs positive. So we had to stay a bit of extra time in the hospital because they wanted to make sure that she didn't have jaundice. After the baby was born, they did make me get up and like go pee and help me with my aftercare. So they had literally help me get up once my epidural had worn off, which to be honest, I thought it was gonna be a lot worse than it was. Of course, like you're bleeding a lot, so they help you kind of like get dressed and all of that. Kind of just cleaned up my bed, and yeah, so we stayed in the same room. They didn't move us another room, like a recovery suite or anything like that. They did labor, delivery, and the next day in the same room, which was really nice. And I did like that they gave me all the food that I possibly wanted. So I had the baby on Thursday at 8:20, and then we didn't end up leaving the hospital until Sunday at noon. So they kept us for a long time. So I think that kind of like wraps up my birth story. It was 30 hours before I had the baby that my water had broke. I think my sister's about to be here to just kind of like hang out with me and the baby because Tyler went to the gym and I'm alone. So yeah. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please comment, like, and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you like me and you like pictures of babies. Follow me on Instagram right here. I'll leave my handle. But yeah, so I will catch you guys next time.